Gopijana Balava Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Brajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Balava Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Balava Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. What verse? Huh? 7. Wow, we're moving right along. Okay. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Idam Bhagavatam Nama Purana Brahma Samitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishayasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swastaya Namahat. This Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is arisen just like the sun to dissipate the dense darkness of the Kali Yuga. This is text number 5, chapter 7, 3rd canto. Dashata kalato yo aso avastata swato anyata avilupta vabodhama sa yujeta jaya katam deshata kalato yosav avastata swatonyata avilupta babodhatma sayujeta jayakatam deshata kalato yosav avastata swatonyata avilupta vabodhatma sayujeta jayakatam. Deshata kalato yosav avastata swatonyata avilupta babodhatma tato chancha avilupta babodhatma sayujeta jayakatam deshata kalato yosav avastata swatonyata avilupta babodhatma sayujeta jayakatam deshata kalato yosav avastata swatonyata avilupta babodhatma sayujaya tatajayam. Mataji, can you see it? Deshata kalato yosav avastata swatonyata avilupta babodhatma sayujeta jayakatam. Deshata, circumstantial. Kalata, by the influence of time. Ya, one who. Aso, the living entity. Avastata, by situation. Swatak, by dream. Anyata, by others. Avilupta, extinct. Avabodha, consciousness. Atma, pure self. Sa, he. Yujeta, engaged. Ajaya, with nescience. Katam, how is it so? Translation: the pure soul, who is pure consciousness and is never out of consciousness, either due to circumstances, time, situations, dreams, or other causes, how then does he become engaged in nescience? Good question. That's questions asked earlier by Cricket Maharaj too. How does the soul come into a body or something? The consciousness of the living being is always present and never changes under any circumstances, as above mentioned. When a living man moves from one place to another, he is conscious that he has changed his position. He is always present in the past, present, and future, like electricity. One can remember incidents from his past and can conjecture about his future also on the basis of past experience. He never forgets his personal identity, even though he is placed in awkward circumstances. How then can the living entity become forgetful of his real identity as a pure spirit soul and identify with matter unless he is influenced by something beyond himself? The conclusion is that the living entity is influenced by the avidya potency, as confirmed in both the Vishnu Purana and in the beginning of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. The living entity is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita 7.5 as Paraprakriti, and in the Vishnu Purana he is mentioned as the Parashakti. He is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord as potency and not as the potent. The potent can exhibit many potencies, but the potency cannot equal the potent at any stage. Science lesson. One potency may be overcome by another potency, but to the potent, all potencies are under control. The jiva potency, or the Kavichandra Shakti of the Lord, has a tendency to be overpowered by the external potency, avidya karma samgya. And in this way, he is placed in the awkward circumstances of material existence. The living entity cannot be forgetful of his real identity unless influenced by the avidya potency, because the living entity is prone to the influence of the avidya potency. He can never equal the supreme potent. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swa Padantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sadrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarane Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namane Madhur Jojala Premaja Shri Rupa Nuga Bhaktida Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namo Varshavanavi Devi Dayitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vigyana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarane Rupa Nuga Viruda Apasiddhanta Dvanta Harane Namo Gaur Kishoraya Satchid Vairagya Murtaye Vipralamba Rasambode Padambujaya Te Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchit Ananda Namane Shri Gora Karuna Sakti Vig Rupa Nuga Varayate Gora Birbhave Bhume Stvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarva Bhoma Jagannataya Te Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gora Trishe Namaha. Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu, Dinabandhu Jagatpate, Gopesha, Gopika, Kanta Radha, Kanta Namostute, Tapta Kanchana, Gaurange Radhe, Vrindavaneshwari, Vishabhanu, Sute Devi, Pranamami Hari Priye. Krishna Tvadiya Padapankaja Panjarantam, Adhyaiva Me Vishatu Manasaraja Hansan, Prana Pranama Samaye Kapapatta Vittaye Kantabaro Dhanabido Smaranam Kataste. All right. Who knows Bhagavad Gita 7.5, which is referred to here? Say it loud. Yeah. Payayam idasthanyam. Prakritim vidhi me param. Jiva bhuta mahabaho. Yayedam daryate jagat. That's describing the living entity. First is Bhumirapo no Vayu, the verse before that. Kamanu Bhureva Cha, the material elements. But then there's something else. There is another superior energy of mind, which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. Exploiting. Daryate means is utilized or exploited. So we have to try to utilize it properly for Krishna. Because it's his energy. I was just listening to a morning walk, and the morning walks of Prabhupada are very unique amongst all the recorded talks, because he lets the devotees talk a lot. And they bring up they're telling him all the things that all the scientists say and the other religious people say. And so somebody brought up that, somebody says, well, if God is perfect, then why are we not perfect? Why did he create us not perfect? So, that's the atheist argument. What, if he gave us this independence, but he knows we might misuse the independence and be sinful and all these things. And that's a common argument, I think, amongst the atheists. And there must be no God, because if he's good, he would have made us perfect. So they get really confused. So Prabhupada said, but that is the perfection, that we have this independence. Because we understand, like, the real thing is to love for Krishna, love for God. So love can't be something that you have no choice. Love is an affair of the heart. People fall in love all the time, but mostly in the material world, it's not really love. It's an exchange of sense gratification or something. So they think they're in love. But it's not pure love. But the spiritual world is based on love, and the material world is based on envy. I'm envious. Somebody has something I want. Everybody has something I want. Everybody's, got something better than what I have. And why is he favoring them and not me? And we can go on and on like that. So the consciousness, the spirit of us, that's the real self. It's always present, and it never changes. We can move from one place to another and try to find a, better situation, right? I mean, Giriraj Swami used to always say that. There's a Bengali saying, I don't know, in Bengali, who's Bengali here? The word for the forehead is the same as fate. So they would say, you can go to Calcutta, but, your head goes with you. So it's not going to change anything. In other words, you have to change your consciousness. And it's the big job. the material energy is working so hard to, drag people down and confuse them. And Kali is working overtime now out of fear for the golden age of Lord Chaitanya, which is coming. It will actually be a golden age. It's predicted it'll be like Satya Yuga. But we're just a few years into it, so can't expect it to be perfect. There's always turmoil when you either try to improve something, or it's more turmoil when you're trying to improve something and trying to drag something down, right? It's very easy to just become lazy and overeat and never exercise and never chant Hare Krishna or anything. Doesn't cost much effort. But to make the improvement, that takes a lot of effort, and then it's cleansing the heart, cleansing the mind, and all kinds of things start happening. And it doesn't end, like at some point. The spiritual progress is eternal. The love for Krishna is always increasing. So we get some attachment. I don't know, we can call it love exactly, but we become attached. We want to go to Arctic, or we go anyway, even if we don't want to. And hopefully we come to the point we want to go, right? I want to get up in the morning. I want to chant Hare Krishna. These are positive affirmations. Mahatma has that list of japa affirmations. One of them is, I love to chant. I want to chant. I have this privilege of doing some devotional service. And this is even in basic counseling. Instead of saying I have to go to work, say I have good fortune that I have a job. I can go to work. Or I have to study. Okay, you're lucky that you can study. Not everybody can. Think like that. Don't think I have. Don't ever use that word. I have to go to Archik. I have to chant my rounds. I have to go for Harinam. Then it's not pleasurable. Then, and that's not Krishna. Krishna, he tells Arjuna at the end, have you understood? And anything you want to hear again? And any questions? And now what do you want to do? He's still independent. But Arjuna had understood the Bhagavad Gita perfectly, so he utilized his independence to serve Krishna. That's our only choice, actually. We think, that especially now in Kali Yuga, there's so much variety in nature, so many different kinds of plants and vegetables and flowers, and we only see some of them. And if you go to a different part of the world, you see much. Like people would come to Thailand or Bali and just be shocked at all the different vegetables they have, and all the different fruits, and they get fascinated just trying all these new things. Now here we get things imported, but we're all individuals, and we all have different relationships with Krishna, but that's our real relationship. We're trying to enjoy relationships with the material energy, even if we're trying to have a so-called spiritual relationship, like people talk about these, what do they call it, soul partners or something. But if you don't have Krishna in the middle, there's no connection. There can't be any real connection until we have everything is centered around Krishna, just like a wheel with a center. You have to have a hub, and the spokes have to go in there. Then it can roll smoothly. So we're caught up in the past, present, and future. In the spiritual world, time is conspicuous by its absence, is the way it's stated in the Bhagavatam. That means if we go there and we're so used to time, and where's the clock? What's going on? Why isn't anybody crying about what happened yesterday? Or why isn't somebody talking about how dangerous the future might be? Because it's, this is the media is just constantly bombarding how it's going to get worse and worse. Now, we say that all Kali Yuga is normally gets worse and worse. The age, the body deteriorates. Things you get weaker. You can't do the things they used to do. Even Prabhupada said like that. He said, I went to Puri when I was young. It's one of the first things Prabhupada did when he graduated or something. He went to Puri. He said, I was jumping, running on the beach. He said, now I want to jump, but I can't. I want to run up the stairs, but I can't do it anymore. But because he was spiritually totally fixed, his mind never deteriorated, like a lot of people do. Nowadays, there's so much of this, what do they call it? Alzheimer's, So people can't remember anything. So in one sense, it's not so bad, I guess, because they don't remember anything. But nobody knows. So we can remember the past, and we can think about what's going to happen in the future based on the past experience. Now that's intelligent. So we should predict, okay, I started chanting Hare Krishna. It made a lot of changes in my life, and if I keep chanting, it's going to continue, it's going to get better, and we take the authority of the Vedas, So then the question is, how can the living entity who's pure and, has an eternal relationship with Krishna forget Krishna? How can we forget that I'm a spirit soul? That only Krishna can do that. He can cover us over. If we get that crazy desire somehow or other, this independence. So sometimes but in the material world, everybody wants independence. Every country has Independence Day, right? It's a big celebration. The devotees years ago, they had the 4th of July, and they were saying Dependence Day, and depending on Krishna, That's the only real independence. Who's really independent in the universe? One personality. Right, you got it. Narada Muni. Because he's totally surrendered to Krishna. So he can do whatever he wants. Go wherever he wants. Everybody, he go to Kamsa, Kamsa bows down, Kamsa tries to be nice to him, take care of him. Ravana, he drops in anywhere he wants. And everybody is afraid of him because they know that if they offend him or something, there'll be all these reactions. Even the demons know. But so he can just twang his veena and go anywhere in the universe and go to Vaikuntha. Krishna gave him that. The veena is something like non-different than Krishna, right? Whatever that instrument is. I was telling him something yesterday. I just read about Jamuna was leading kirtan after one lecture in some big public program. And all of a sudden, Prabhupada started singing really loud in the microphone. Narada Muni Bhajavina Radhika Ramana Name. And he was singing it over and over again. So she looked up like, what's going on? Prabhupada said, keep chanting, keep chanting. And then Prabhupada kept singing that, and then gradually Prabhupada joined her in leading the kirtan. So they both were leading the kirtan. And so in the next morning she said, Prabhupada, what was happening? He said, didn't you see Narada Muni was there? And another time, maybe it was that time, another time Prabhupada just started laughing like anything during the kirtan, really heavy laughing. So when they asked him, he said, well, Narada Muni was there. And they said, what was he doing? He said, he was laughing at these mlechas and yamanas dancing and chanting Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada, he picked right up on it. I don't know of any other devotee that ever saw Narada Muni there. Although sometimes I wonder, these crazy, homeless, crazy guys that start dancing around in front of the Harinam and won't go away. If it might be somebody, right? We don't know who they are, why they're attracted, and, So even if we're put in very bad, how can a living entity forget that he's a spirit soul? He has to be influenced by something beyond himself. That's Krishna. The avidya potency, the ignorance. So we want to get out from the shelter of the avidya potency. These bodies, once we're in it, it's just so much trouble. Of course, when you're young, you don't realize it as much, but as we get older, and you think about it, even you look at the budget of a temple, how much is for food you have to eat, and then sewage and all these things that take care of the body, water to take bath and wash clothes, it's so much. So we have to understand it. We're going to do things for Krishna, take care of whatever we have for Krishna. So the Bhagavatam, it says the living entities mentioned. It's Parapakriti. That's what we just read. Apariyam etastanyam prakritim vidi me param jiva bhuta mahabaho yayedam dayate jagat. There's another potency beyond the earth, water, fire, air, and ether. The body is, all bodies are made out of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Isn't it? In the 11th canto, the story of the Hamsa avatar. So the 4 Kumaras, they were asking questions that Brahma couldn't answer. So he called Krishna. But he came as a Hamsa avatar, swan. So the 4 Kumaras said, who are you? He said, well, if you're asking about my body, you should say, who are you, 5? Because all these bodies are made out of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. They're all separate things. Then he went on and on about the mind and the soul and just confused them. But he answered the question, he gave the answer to their question about the soul. So Krishna is the potency. He's the potent, Everything is coming from him. So he can't be affected by any of the potencies that he has. Can't become bewildered by Maya, like the Mayavadis say. Prabhupada was saying, he said, Mayavadi, they think Krishna has a Maya body. They think he has a body made out of material elements, and he's become covered over also. And they say really stupid things like, well, I had a cousin, he's my older cousin, so I admired him in many ways, but then as I got a little older and would hear his philosophy, so he was saying the difference, when I was a devotee, he said, difference is that I think I'm God, and your religion is different. And I said, well, how can you think you're God when you've just been telling me how miserable you are and how you've been suffering and all that? Well, no, I've just wanted to experience what is suffering. So I've come and taken this miserable body. But that's what they read in some Mayavadi book, He gave me a book, and the front of the book said, don't read the end of the book until you read the whole book. It was called 3 Magic Words. So, of course, I read the last page right away. And I was a devotee. And it said, you are God. Those were the magic words. So they don't know what is God. They have no idea that the omnipotent, all potencies, unlimited. So everything is owned and controlled by the Lord, spiritual and material. So we want to take shelter and be guided in our life and our activities. And Prabhupada had very mercifully given so much, because like if someone teaches us how to do something or says you have to do it, you might do it, but it won't be with a lot of enthusiasm or, happiness, like most people. Your parents, you have to go to school, you have to study. Why? Well, because then you can get in a better high school, and then you can get in a better college, and then you can get a better job, and then, right? And then when you have a better job, you can get a lot of debt, and you can have all kinds of houses and cars and everything. So if you have to do it, you might do it. A slave has to work, but he's not out of love. So we have to develop this, love for Krishna. Volunteer. So devotional service is volunteer. You can't force anyone to chant 16 rounds, I don't think. You can try, but even with the children, Prabhupada said never try to force them to chant, Just make chanting fun. Make it fun so they'll want to chant. Or sometimes he would say, don't chant, I don't like that chanting, we don't want to hear it, that Hare Krishna. Because devotees, were influenced by their upbringing. So they would say, okay, you've been bad, now you have to chant one round or something. And so that those kids never want to chant japa when they grow up. We have many. So, and any children, devotees, each other, even senior devotees, new devotees, you have to encourage them that, why do we want to do this? If you know why you have to do something, like say there's a project in the temple or, a project in some company, if they can convince the benefits of doing it, why we want to do this, what we're going to get out of it, then everybody gets on board. Everybody will want to take part. So we have to understand, why am I chanting? You think about it? Why do you chant? Why did you dance in Mangalarti? Just because I told you to? Or was it okay? Huh? So, was it painful or? No. It looked pretty blissful. I don't know. Yeah. Prabhupada said dancing produces bhakti. So he said that rhythm instruments are more important because they induce dancing. And the too melodious things, they drag your mind away from the mantra. And then you have everybody sitting down, dancing. So you beat, good rhythm. It makes you dance. I saw Prabhupada one time. I heard of it a few times, but that was a big initiation with Radha Damodar in Chicago. And they were installing 4 sets of Gaura-Nitai deities for different buses. And I was we were trying to dress the deities, and the dresses didn't fit properly, and none of us ever dressed deities before anyway. So it was taking a really long time. And then Prabhupada, the temple leader, came up and said, Prabhupada, said, hurry up, Prabhupada wants to go. So finally he said, can I go now? Now, those devotees from the bus, they never danced with their hands up, because on the bus you would smash your fingers in the ceiling. The ceiling was like this high, Some of them had hair cracks and hair stuck in the cracks where they jumped up. So they were dancing like this. And in the Chicago temple room was like this. It was really high ceiling. So Prabhupada stood up and he said, "You see the Panchatattva, they're always like this. So you should dance like this," he said. And then he went, "Not like this." Then he left. He said that many times, Look at the Panchatattva, look at all the pictures, they always have their hands in the air, right? That it does something. Also, it says that when devotees dance, it purifies the earth, but when they raise their hands, it purifies the heavenly planets. So that's another motivation. But it opens up all the chakras and everything, physically even. You breathe deeper, and Krishna likes it, Prabhupada in the early days when he danced, he always had his hands in. So the jiva potency, the Chaitanya, can be overpowered by the external potency of vidya karma. Then we get in awkward circumstances. Very nice words, Prabhupada. Awkward circumstances. The material body. And being attached to something and averse to something and losing something and hankering for something and hankering and lamenting and all the terrible things that are going on in the world. So now, who knows what Kali Yuga is up to. I saw a headline today. It said, many churches are closing, because of their congregation doesn't have money now from the pandemic time, and the church has to sell their property. And so somebody is achieving, some goals to try to wipe out religion. That's Kali's work. He doesn't want, He's afraid of the Sankirtan movement. That's in several books, of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. One's by Kavichandra, how Kali, and he's meeting with his gang there, lust, anger, greed, and envy, and illusion, and he's saying, this Lord Chaitanya is coming, and we're finished, and how are we going to function, And then all they say, don't worry, lust says, I'll just make him lusty and he'll get distracted, or we'll make all the people so lusty, And Kali said, no, this Lord Chaitanya is too powerful, the Sankirtan movement. So he's afraid, so there's a lot of effort to stop it, so many different ways. But we carry on. Why do we do that? Mainly because we should be doing everything. Yesterday, they asked me to talk about, or the day before, what is the significance of this Pusha Abhishek, which, it's an ancient festival. But I said the purpose of all the festivals we do, and it's for Krishna's pleasure. Whatever we're doing, whether it's just and if it's just Mangal Artik or just chanting your japa, if you're just chanting by yourself, that's a festival. But we should be doing it for Krishna. And Krishna's there, Krishna's watching us, Krishna's hearing us, so we want to be careful. Why do we do this? Our pleasing the spiritual master, because yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado, sya prasada nagati katopi. When you please the spiritual master, everything becomes good. And if we displease, then it's chaos. So that's when sincerity, Prabhupada said, means you follow the order of the spiritual master. We all have the basic same order, 16 rounds. That's easy, in one sense, at first. But then attentively, without offense, it becomes a little more of a challenge. And it's something we always have to pray and work on, that we can chant attentively, and to do everything attentively. Take help from Krishna. So we'll stop and try to take shelter of the so we can always remember our real identity. Like sometimes sickness is a benediction because we can realize we're not this body. If everything is nice, you're enjoying. That's why sex life is considered so bad, because it gives so much pleasure to the body. Then, you think, well, this body's great. It's wonderful. Such a nice thing, I can enjoy like anything. And all the pleasures of the flesh. Before I met devotees, I stayed with one Christian group for a little while. They were real preachers. They had traveled all over America, and, living in trailers and preaching, and then they settled down in the desert. And the leader lady, she would say, pleasures of the flesh, and spit on it, eating meat, sex, and all these things, had good understanding. So we want pleasures of the soul, we want pleasures for this. If Krishna is pleased, we'll be pleased. Guru is pleased, we'll be pleased. Just like if you fix your tilak nice, and when you look in the mirror, the tilak's in the mirror also. Right? You have your neck beads. So we please Krishna, he's in the heart, he's in controller of all the senses, and then we'll be pleased. So are you ready to ask a question, or are you just ready with the microphone? Okay.
I wanted to make sure I had it ready.
Okay. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Tulsi Devi Dasi. Das. Tulsi Devi Das.
Thank you, Maharaj. You are mentioning how the nature of the living entity is to be completely dependent on Krishna. That's his natural position. And at the same time, often we are speaking about independence, like we know Srila Prabhupada was saying that he wants to create independently thoughtful people. So how these two they fit together?
Again?
By nature we are dependent,
Yeah.
but at the same time we hear, like Srila Prabhupada was saying, he wants to create independently thoughtful people.
Yeah, well, we're covered over, so we think I have independent. I think Prahladananda mentioned that, something like, you can choose different kinds of beer, or you can go to different movies, and thinking, well, I'm free, I do whatever I want, You can go to Target, or you can go to Marks and whatever other high fashion place, I'm free. I have choice. But that's not real choice, because you're forced by the modes of nature to make those choices. A real independence is we can choose Krishna or we can choose Maya. We can choose the internal or the external. So we always have that choice. Even like when someone asks, it says that, having returned to my abode, I never come back. Now that probably somebody will say, well, how did we get here then? Because you didn't return, you started there. And then somehow whether we get this idea. But then he said it means almost never. that independence is always there. But if someone had been in the material world and then somehow we get out, it's almost won't never happen that they would want to go back. But it's still there. Still that independent streak can come and think, why is everybody centering around Krishna? I want to be the center, or something like that. Okay? So we have, at least we have chosen, we're trying to serve Krishna, we're trying to give up that foolish independence. Still we have to make so many choices. And we make a lot of mistakes, but can't really call it mistake. Like we have to decide where to go for book distribution, where to go for Harinamas. right? But then we might get kicked out, no matter how many, you know. I remember when I was traveling, and so many times in the rain or the police come and all these crazy things, you know, and no matter. So I was thinking, well, I wish I could go to the airport, you know, where it's always the same weather. So Krishna helped me, I got in there. But, you know, just know, okay, we're going to the same place every day, and it's not going to rain, and we have our permission, and, you know, we can do our work, you know. But that's Krishna. He's trying to teach us, you know. Nothing, we can't be perfect. Okay? You want to explain something more? Krishna did something far out yesterday for Gopal. He was traveling from one airport to the next to meet Hamsa, and he heard that the flight was a couple hours late, right? So Krishna made the flight late, and then he somehow thought, well, let me just distribute some books. He went in a few stores, did 4 steps. So I just figured Krishna made the flight late so he could, you know, because we think about doing all these things, and then, you know, because we're in a rut, we don't do it all. So that's Krishna's arrangement.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was thinking, you know, yesterday when I was distributing books and, you know, meeting people, I was just recognizing maybe how some people are just so far away from actually, you know, taking up the practice of devotional service. And I was just thinking how effective, you know, is this, like, distributing so many books and chanting the holy names. Is like, how can we actually start to perceive the effects of it? You know, because sometimes it seems, okay, we distributed millions of books and done millions of hours, you know, thousands of hours of Harinam, and yet, you know, one person may come forward or nobody, or, you know, how do we stay enthusiastic in performing our service when the results may be meager?
Right. I just sometimes think, you know, we have to have a leap of faith, you know, when we're sitting out there and all these people are just running by, and, you know, the few people that pay attention to us give dirty looks or something. And, you know, there must be something else we can be doing, you know. But they're all getting purified. And they're hearing the holy name, and that has a, you know, inconceivable. I mean, look, Prabhupada, I was listening to some Ratha Yatra lectures, you know. So that's a big public crowd, you know. A lot of people, they don't know. They just show up, they follow the cart or something, they never heard of Hare Krishna. I remember I was in New York Ratha Yatra one time, and one middle-aged couple, they asked me, what religion is this? You know, there's like thousands of devotees chanting Hare Krishna. And then I said, it's Hare Krishna. And he looked at his wife, said, see, I told you, you know. They didn't know. But, so that the crowd may be like, you know, all kinds of people, like they just happen to walk through the park or something. But he was saying this, you know, just see the power of this chanting Hare Krishna. Just by this chanting, you know, people are chanting Hare Krishna all over the world. He was naming all these places, and just by this chanting, these boys and girls who never heard of Krishna a few years ago, they've dedicated their life. This chanting is so wonderful. He's just banging away at it, you know. So even they just hear it once, you know, especially if they're just clear-headed about it, we can't really calculate what's going to be the result. If it's this lifetime, if it's today or tomorrow, you know, there are people that just join right away. In the early days, there were many. If you read that Radha Damodar Vilas, many devotees, and I knew them, and most of them are still around. So I went to the temple and I heard Vishnu Jan and I joined. Because they were already, living in crash pads and hippie pads and stuff. So they were homeless in one sense. So they just stayed. And they're still around. Just from the chanting. Just follow the Harinam party back to the temple. So it's still happening. And Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Happy Monday. We got to think Happy Monday, right? It's the start of the week again. There's this old song, Stormy Monday. And Tuesday's just as bad. And Wednesday's even worse. But then Friday comes and then they start thinking about partying and everything's all right. The foolish, foolish life people are leading, but we have to help them. Okay. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai.
His Holiness Kavichandra Maharaj.
Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Where are we going today? Oh, every Monday, huh? I forget. Okay, well, at least it's easy.